The wind screamed across the white mountains, sharp and cold like knives. Snow covered the rocks and the sky was hidden by dark clouds. Inside a cave, an alien mother sat with her small child, both wrapped in torn blankets that gave little warmth. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, pale blue with faint silver lines that marked her people. Her eyes were wide and full of fear. She held her child close, the little one's body shaking with cold. Every breath was weak. Every cough echoed in the cave like a warning. They had been running for days, running from hunters who wanted to capture them. The mother had lost her mate in the escape, and now only she and her child remained. The cave was their last hiding place, but it was also a prison. The storm outside blocked the path and the cave grew colder every hour. The mother whispered soft words to her child, telling stories of warmth, of fields, of their lost home. But her heart was breaking. She had no food, no fire, and no hope. The snowstorm would last for days, and without help they would both die here. Her child pressed a tiny hand against her chest and whispered, "Mama, I'm hungry." The words cut deeper than any blade. She had no answer. She only hugged the child tighter, tears slipping down her face. In the silence, she could almost hear footsteps in the snow, and her heart jumped. Were the hunters back? Had they found the trail again? She moved deeper into the cave, holding her child close. She tried to stay silent, her breathing shallow, her eyes fixed on the mouth of the cave. The storm howled outside, but under the wind she thought she heard something else. Heavy boots, crunching against ice, moving closer. Fear gripped her heart. She pressed her hand over the child's mouth. The little one trembled but obeyed. In the dim light of the storm, a shadow appeared at the cave's edge, tall, broad, carrying something across the back. The mother's heart pounded. She thought it was a hunter. Her body shook as she prepared to fight with nothing but her hands. She would die before letting them take her child. But then, the figure stepped into the cave, and it was not like the hunters. It was a human, wrapped in thick survival gear, face hidden under frost, breath steaming in the cold. He looked just as tired, just as broken. But his eyes, when they met hers, did not hold cruelty, they held surprise. The human froze for a moment, staring at the alien mother and child huddled together. The silence was heavy, broken only by the storm outside. Then slowly, carefully, the human raised his hands, showing he carried no weapon against them. The mother did not trust him. She tightened her grip on her child. The human studied them for a long second, then reached into his pack, pulled out a small metal device with a spark and hiss. Fire bloomed. Light filled the cave. Heat spread across the stones. The child gasped and reached toward the flame, eyes wide with wonder. The mother pulled the little hand back, still afraid. The human placed the fire between them, sitting down near the entrance. Not too close, not too far. He kept his distance, as if he knew they feared him. The warmth crept through the cave, melting. The sharp cold for the first time in days, the child whispered, "Mama, it's warm." And the mother's heart twisted. She wanted to believe, she wanted to trust. But she had seen too much death, too much betrayal. The human reached again into his pack and pulled out a small piece of dried food. He broke it, placed part of it on the ground, sliding it toward them, then leaned back, watching with tired eyes. The mother hesitated, her stomach twisted with hunger. Her child's eyes locked on the food. She knew it could be poison, a trick, but she also knew the child was too weak to last much longer. Finally, with trembling hands, she picked it up, sniffed it, tasted a small piece. It was rough, but safe. The child ate quickly, small bites turning into desperate gulps. Tears rolled down the mother's face, not from fear this time, but from a strange relief. For the first time in weeks, her child was eating. The human said nothing, only sat with the fire, his eyes half closed, his body shaking from the storm he had walked through. He was not a hunter. She could see it now. He was something else, a wanderer, maybe a survivor like her. Outside, the storm grew stronger, sealing the cave mouth with snow. They were trapped together, human and alien, mother and child, strangers, bound by the same cold fate. The mother looked at him once more, her voice soft, filled with both fear and hope. "Why are you here, human?" The man raised his eyes, and for the first time he spoke, his voice rough from the wind. "To survive." The fire crackled between them, the storm raged outside, and in that frozen cave a story of life, death, and unexpected family began. The fire flickered against the cold walls of the cave, its glow soft and golden. The warmth spread slowly, chasing away the bite of the storm. The alien mother held her child close, watching the human with sharp, cautious eyes. The man sat near the entrance, his back against the stone, his body heavy with exhaustion, snow still clinging to his shoulders. He placed his pack beside him, then stretched his hands toward the fire. He did not move closer to them. And he did not speak again. The mother whispered to her child, her words low. "Do not trust him, little one." But the child's eyes stayed on the flame, their small hands reaching out, warming tiny fingers, a weak smile appearing for the first time in days. The human noticed. A faint smile touched his lips. Not cruel, not mocking, just tired. He pulled out another strip of dried food from his pack. This time he did not place it on the ground. He broke it and held the smaller piece in his gloved hand, extending it slightly. The mother tensed, her body ready to shield her child. But before she could stop it, the little one wriggled free from her arms, crawling toward the man with unsteady steps, hunger stronger than fear. "Wait," she whispered, but the child had already reached out. The human lowered the food slowly, letting the child take it. No sudden movement, no force, just patience. The child chewed happily, crumbs falling on the cave floor. The mother's heart ached, torn between relief and terror. She watched, the man carefully, trying to read his intent. The storm outside roared louder. Wind screamed like angry spirits. Snow piled higher at the cave's mouth. The path outside was gone. They were sealed in. The human sighed, glancing at the storm, then back at the mother, his voice rough but steady. "We're stuck here until it passes." She did not answer. Her eyes narrowed. He nodded as if he expected silence. He leaned back, pulling a flask from his pack. He took a sip, then held it out toward her. Her hands shook as she accepted it, sniffing the liquid first. It was only water, cold but clean. She gave some to her child, who drank eagerly, then handed it back, her voice sharp but low. "Why help us, human? What do you want?" The man looked at the fire, shadows flickering across his scarred face. His answer was simple. "Nothing, just not ready to watch anyone die today." The words struck her, strange and heavy. No hunter would say that. No slaver would mean it. She studied him, searching for a hidden trap, but found only tired honesty in his eyes. The child crawled closer to him, small hands pressed against the warmth of the fire. The mother reached out, but stopped when she saw the human carefully adjusting the fire, making sure the flames did not get too close to the little one. Hours passed, the storm raged, but inside the cave there was fragile peace. The mother sat at one side, the human at the other, and the child moved between them, laughing softly, their laughter a small spark of life in the frozen dark. As night deepened, the cave grew colder. The fire began to fade. The human added more fuel from a small bundle of sticks he had carried. She realized then how carefully he had prepared for his journey, how far he must have walked alone. The mother pulled her child close again, trying to keep them warm. The human noticed, and without a word, he reached into his pack once more, this time pulling out a thick cloth blanket. He tossed it gently across the fire, letting it fall near her feet. She hesitated, her pride sharp, her distrust stronger. But the child reached out quickly, wrapping themselves in the soft cloth, sighing with relief. The mother's eyes softened for just a moment. She whispered a quiet, "Thank you," barely more than breath. The man only nodded, leaning back, his eyes closing slowly, exhaustion finally pulling him toward sleep. But even as he slept, one hand rested near a small knife at his side. A habit of survival, a sign that trust was not yet earned. The mother did not sleep. She stayed awake, staring at the fire, listening to the storm, her mind torn. Should she escape when he rested? Should she take her child and run deeper into the mountain paths? Or should she wait, see what this stranger truly was? She looked at her child, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, their tiny face pressed against the borrowed blanket, and she knew the truth. She could not leave yet, not when warmth and food and safety, even fragile, had returned. But deep in the night, a sound broke the peace, far away but sharp, echoing across the mountain walls. A whistle, a call. Hunters, signals. The mother's blood turned to ice, her body tense. She looked at the cave entrance, buried in snow but not enough to hide them forever. Her child stirred in sleep and she whispered a prayer to the dark. The human's eyes snapped open, awake in an instant. He had heard it too. His jaw tightened, his hand gripped the knife. He looked at her, and in the firelight his eyes burned with warning. The storm was not their only prison now, something worse was coming. The fire burned low, shadows stretched long against the stone walls. The alien mother sat upright, her ears sharp, her heart heavy. Outside the storm still raged, but under the scream of the wind, the sound of the hunter's call echoed faintly. Again, the human shifted closer to the fire, his knife glinting in the dim light, his jaw set. He listened with the patience of someone who had lived through many dangers. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, steady. "They are searching the mountain. They'll find us if we don't plan." The mother hugged her child tighter. The little one stirred but did not wake. She whispered sharply, "You brought them, didn't you? You are one of them." The human turned his head slowly, meeting her eyes, his stare steady, not offended, not angry, just tired. "If I were one of them, you'd already be in chains," he said. "I don't hunt mothers and children." His words cut into her chest, making her doubt her own fear. She studied him in silence, then finally asked, "Why are you here? These mountains are death even for humans." The man leaned back against the stone, pulling his coat tighter, his face half hidden in shadow. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he began, his voice rough. "I had a squad once, soldiers. Like me, we thought we could tame this land, build outposts, guard trade routes." His eyes grew distant. But the mountain didn't care. It took them one by one, the cold, the storms, the avalanches, until only I walked away. The mother's eyes softened slightly. Pain recognized pain, but she still guarded her heart. "And now you wander alone?" He nodded slowly. "Alone is safer. No one to lose, no one to bury." The mother lowered her gaze to her child, brushing their silver hair back gently. Her voice cracked. "I had a mate, strong and kind. He carried our little one on his shoulders, made them laugh even in the camps when the hunters came. He fought so we could run. They cut him down before my eyes. I could not even cry. I just ran, holding my child." Her words shook and she pressed her hand over her mouth, the memories too sharp. The human did not interrupt. He only listened, his eyes heavy with a sorrow that needed no words. For a while the cave was silent, except for the storm outside. The fire crackled low. The child slept soundly between them, their soft breathing the only sign of peace. Then the whistle came again, closer this time, sharper, like claws scraping stone. The human rose quietly. Moving to the entrance, he brushed snow from the edge, peering into the blinding white. He saw shadows in the storm, figures moving slowly, searching. He returned to the fire, his voice low. "They'll be here by morning." The mother's blood turned cold. She clutched her child tightly, her voice trembling. "Then we are already dead." But the man shook his head. "Not yet, if we're careful." He crouched, using a stick to sketch lines in the ash. "This cave has only one way out. We can use that. If they come inside, they'll be funneled. They won't all fit at once." The mother frowned. "You speak like a soldier." "I was one," he admitted, "but here I'm only a survivor, same as you." She hesitated, then nodded slowly, her eyes moving to the child. "I don't care about me, only them. If they must live and I must fall, so be it." The human looked at her firmly, his voice heavy. "No, if one of us falls, the hunters win. If we stand together, maybe your child grows up free." His words struck her like a flame in the dark. She had trusted no one since her mate's death, but now this stranger, this human, spoke like he carried their burden too. The child stirred in their sleep, whispering softly, "Mama, fire warm." And the mother's heart cracked open. She pressed a kiss to the child's forehead, whispering back, "Yes, little one, warm." The human added fuel to the fire. The flames grew stronger. He sat down across from her again, his eyes on the glow, his voice quieter now. "You asked me why I help. The truth is simple. I've seen too many graves. I won't dig another if I can stop it." The mother studied him, her suspicions still alive but weaker now. She thought of the hunters, the chains, the endless running. And then she thought of this moment. Firelight, warmth, her child sleeping safely for once. She whispered, almost to herself, "Perhaps fate trapped us in this cave for a reason." The man gave a faint smile, but it did not last. Outside, the storm screamed again, and within it the hunters' voices grew louder, echoing through the frozen dark. The child woke suddenly, their small eyes wide with fear. They clutched their mother's arm and whispered, "Mama, they are coming." Both the mother and the human froze, listening, their hearts beating fast, in the cave's shadows. The firelight flickered, and the night ahead promised blood. The fire burned lower as dawn approached, its glow no longer golden but red and weak. The alien mother's eyes were heavy with fear. She held her child close, rocking them gently. The child whimpered, sensing the danger outside. The human sat near the cave mouth, his knife resting in his hand, every muscle tense. He had slept only in short moments, waking at each sound. Now the storm had begun to fade, the howling wind softening into silence, and with that silence came something worse. Voices. From beyond the snowdrift came shouts, sharp and cruel, hunters calling to each other, their words carried through the mountain air. The mother flinched at every echo. She knew those voices too well, the men who had burned her village, the ones who had taken her sisters. The human turned his head toward her, his voice steady. "They're close, but they don't know we're here yet." He moved quickly, pulling his pack open, spreading its contents on the stone floor. Rope, small metal tools, a second knife. He began to arrange them with care. The mother whispered, her voice tight, "You mean to fight them?" "There are too many." His eyes narrowed. "I mean to keep them out. This cave can be defended. They can only come in one at a time. If we hold long enough, maybe the storm will rise again and drive them back." She looked at him with doubt, but the child reached toward the human, their small voice trembling. "Don't let them take us." The human gave a single nod, his face hard. "They won't." The cave grew tense as the hunters moved closer, the crunch of boots on snow, the scrape of weapons against rock. Shadows passed near the entrance. The mother pressed her child into the back of the cave, whispering words of comfort that she barely believed herself. The human crouched near the entrance, knife ready, his breath slow and controlled. He picked up a flat rock, threw it deep into the storm. It clattered against the mountain wall. The hunters stopped. Their voices grew louder, suspicious. Some moved toward the sound. Others stayed behind. For a moment it seemed the trick worked. Then one voice barked an order and 2 hunters began digging through the snow at the cave mouth. The human's jaw tightened. He whispered to the mother, "Stay back. Cover your child's ears." The snow shifted. Daylight pierced the cave in thin beams, then a hand reached through, clawed glove pulling at the ice. Another followed. Then a face appeared, cruel eyes shining, teeth bared in a grin. The human struck fast, his knife slashing across the hand, blood splattered against the snow. The hunter howled in pain, falling back. The others shouted, weapons clashing. Now they knew. Now the hunt had found its prey. The mother gasped, clutching her child tight. The human pulled another tool from his pack, a sharp piece of metal shaped like a spike. He drove it into the snow near the entrance, forming a narrow barricade. The hunters cursed outside. One shouted, "They're trapped in there. Burn them. Out." Smoke. The word filled her with terror. She remembered villages burning, bodies falling. She shook, but the human acted fast. He dragged snow from the walls of the cave, packing it near the fire, Sealing cracks where smoke could enter, he glanced back at her. "Keep your child low, the snow will block most of it." The hunters threw torches. Fire hissed against the wet stone. Smoke rose, but the man's quick wall held it back. Still, the cave filled with the stench of ash. The child coughed, tears streaming. The mother pressed her hand over their mouth gently, praying for silence. Then came the second assault. The hunters no longer patient. Their boots thundered outside. One rushed through the half-opened gap. Weapon raised, the human met him in the narrow space. Their bodies colliding. The sound of steel against stone filled the air. The fight was brutal. The hunter swung wildly, but the narrow space limited him. The human used it, slamming the man's head against the stone. The hunter collapsed, groaning, pulled back by his comrades. The mother stared, breathless. She had never seen a human fight like this, not with fury alone, but with skill, with purpose, each move measured, each strike precise. Outside, the hunters regrouped, their voices angry. One snarled, "We'll bury them in their cave, collapse it." The mother's blood froze. If they brought down the mountain, she and her child would die before ever stepping into light again. But the human shook his head, his eyes locked on the entrance. "They won't risk it. They want you alive. They want your child alive. They'll come again." His prediction proved true. Another shadow appeared, this time armored. The hunter lunged into the cave, but the human was ready. He ducked low, driving his knife upward. The armored figure stumbled, fell back, his cries swallowed by the storm. Outside, for a moment, silence returned, broken only by the child's soft sobs. The mother pulled them close, whispering comfort, her eyes never leaving the man who stood at the cave mouth, his shoulders heavy but unbroken. The human wiped blood from his knife, his voice grim. "They'll be back with more and harder to stop." The mother swallowed her fear, her voice shaking. "Then we cannot stay here." He nodded, staring at the storm beyond, the faint glow of dawn now breaking. "When night falls again, we move. Until then, we hold." The child whispered softly, clutching both their hands. "Don't let them take me, please." The mother kissed her child's head, tears falling. The human's face hardened, his answer sharp and certain. "They won't." And as the storm settled outside, the hunters gathered, waiting, sharpening their blades, preparing for the next assault. The cave became a battlefield of shadows and fire, and every breath was borrowed time. The morning light crept across the mountains, pale and cold. The storm had broken, but the danger outside was worse than any snow. The hunters waited beyond the cave, their voices rising in cruel laughter, their boots grinding against the ice. Inside, the alien mother clutched her child against her chest, rocking them slowly, whispering soft words, but her eyes never left the cave mouth. Every shadow made her heart race. Every sound was a knife against her nerves. The human stood near the entrance, his shoulders tense, knife in one hand, a jagged piece of stone in the other. His breath was steady, his eyes sharp. He knew what was coming, and he knew the hunters would not stop until they had blood. The first attack came without warning, a sudden rush of movement, a hunter forcing his way through the narrow entrance. His weapon gleamed. The man met him head-on. Their bodies slammed. Together, the cave shook with the sound. The fight was close, brutal. The hunter swung wide, but the human ducked low, driving his shoulder into the man's chest. They struggled in the snow and ash, grunting, growling, each strike echoing. Finally, the human slammed the stone against the hunter's head. The body crumpled, dragged away by his comrades outside. The child cried out in fear. The mother pressed her hand over their mouth, tears running down her cheeks. She had seen death before, but never this close, never this raw. The second attack followed quickly. 2 hunters this time, one with a blade, one with a spear. The human growled, "Stay back," then charged forward. The narrow cave made the fight savage. Blades scraped against stone. Sparks flew in the darkness. The spear grazed his arm, blood sprayed across the wall, but he did not fall. He caught the shaft, twisted hard, breaking the hunter's balance. Then he slammed the man into the stone until he went limp, the one with. The blade lunged, cutting across the human's side. The pain made him stumble, blood dripping onto the frozen floor. The mother gasped, But before she could move, the human roared, stabbing his knife deep. The hunter screamed, then silence. His body dragged back like the others. The man staggered, pressing his hand to his wound. Blood soaked his coat, yet he remained on his feet, breathing heavy. His eyes locked on the cave mouth. "They'll keep coming," he said, his voice like iron. The mother's chest ached. Her child whispered in fear, "Mama, he's bleeding." She looked at the human, at his pale face, and something inside her broke. She had promised herself never to trust again, never to hope. But now she saw him standing in blood and fire, refusing to abandon them, and she knew. He was not like the others. The hunters outside shouted, angry at their losses. Their leader's voice cut through the mountain air. "Bring fire, smoke them out, the woman and child must live, the man dies here." The mother's heart twisted. She realized the truth. They did not care about her. They cared about her child, her little one who carried the bloodline of her people. She held them tighter, whispering a vow. "They will not have you. Never." The human turned his head, sweat and blood dripping down his cheek, his voice steady despite the pain. "When they come again, it won't be just one or two. It'll be all of them." The mother shook. "You cannot fight them alone." His eyes met hers, fierce, determined. "Then fight with me." The words burned through her. She looked at her child, then at the man. She had always feared humans, always hated them for the chains they allowed. But this one, this stranger, bled for them, stood for them. She could not deny it anymore. Her hands trembled as she set her child down gently, whispering, "Stay here, little one. Stay quiet." Then she stood, her body tall, her eyes sharp, her claws flexing. She moved, to stand beside the man. He looked at her in surprise, then nodded once as if accepting something he had always known would happen. Together they faced the cave mouth. Together they listened as the hunters gathered outside. The air filled with the sound of boots, of weapons drawn, of fire crackling. The leader shouted, "Kill the man, bind the woman, take the child." The human spat into the snow, his voice low and cold. "They'll take nothing." The hunters rushed in, 5 shadows filling the mouth of the cave. The fight exploded like thunder. Steel clashed, blood splattered. The human struck fast, each movement fueled by fury. The mother lunged beside him, her claws tearing at one attacker, her strength fierce, her scream echoing through the stone. The child hid their face, covering their ears. But the sounds of battle could not be shut out. The cave shook with the violence. The human took a blade across his shoulder, blood pouring. Yet he stood, slamming his knife into another hunter. The mother screamed as a spear sliced her arm, but she fought harder, her claws raking across a throat. Bodies fell one by one, dragged away. The floor was stained red. The smell of iron filled the air, and still the hunters pressed on, wave after wave. At last, silence fell again, broken only by heavy breaths. The human leaned against the wall, his body trembling, blood dripping freely. The mother stood beside him, her chest heaving, her own arm torn and bleeding. The child crawled forward, tears in their eyes, clutching both of them, whispering, "Don't die. Please don't die." The human dropped to one knee, putting a hand on the child's small shoulder, his voice ragged, but firm. "Not yet, little one, not while I can stand." The mother looked at him, her vision blurred by tears. For the first time since her mate's death, she felt something strange, something heavy in her chest. Trust. The hunters outside screamed in anger, regrouping, planning their next move. The human forced himself to his feet again, his voice sharp. "We can't stay here. When night falls, we move, or we die." The mother nodded slowly, holding her child, close, her voice strong despite her wounds. "Then we moved together." Outside, the mountain held its breath. Inside, blood soaked the stone. But in that moment, they were no longer strangers. They were a family forged in fire. The cave was filled with the smell of blood, smoke, and fear. The bodies of the fallen hunters had been dragged away, but their screams still echoed in the mother's ears. The human leaned against the wall, his breath ragged, his wounds wrapped with strips of cloth, yet his eyes still burned with fire. The mother sat with her child pressed against her chest, rocking them slowly, whispering songs of comfort she barely remembered. The little ones shivered, their wide eyes fixed on the fading fire. Night was coming, the mountain sky turning black once more. The hunters' voices outside had grown quieter but not gone. They were waiting for the cave's defenders to collapse, waiting for weakness. The human rose slowly, his body heavy with pain. He checked his knife, cleaned the blood from its edge, then looked at the mother, his voice low but steady. "We can't stay here. If we wait, they'll return with more and the mountain will bury us." Her heart shook, but she knew he was right. "The storm is fierce, the paths are deadly," she whispered. "If we leave, we may freeze." He gave a hard smile. "If we stay, we die anyway. Better to take the chance." The mother looked at her child, who clung to her hand, their small voice trembling. "Mama, I don't want to die here." Her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded. "We go." The human doused the fire, plunging the cave into cold darkness. He strapped his pack tight, adjusted his coat, and checked the narrow exit. Snow had piled high, but he dug through with his bare hands until the way was open. They stepped into the night. The wind struck them like knives. The storm had returned, not as wild as before, but enough to blind. The snow crunched under their boots. The mountain stretched before them, endless and cruel. The human led the way, his movements careful, precise. He knew the land, every path, every hidden ledge. The mother followed with the child held close, her arms aching but her will stronger. Behind them, the hunters' shouts rose once more. They had seen the escape. "Faster," the human growled, his breath steaming. "They're coming." The path wound narrow along a cliff, the snow deep, the rocks sharp. The mother slipped once, nearly falling, but the man caught her arm, pulling her back with all his strength. His wound tore open again, blood staining the snow, yet he did not let go. They moved further, climbing higher, deeper into the storm. The hunters followed, their torches glowing in the distance, small flames moving like predators through the night. The child coughed. The sound carried in the wind. The mother pressed them close, praying the storm would hide them. The human stopped suddenly, holding up a hand. "Quiet, listen." From ahead came the sound of cracking ice. A frozen river crossed their path. The surface glowed faintly in the moonlight, fragile and dangerous. The man's jaw tightened. "We cross here slowly, one at a time." The mother's heart pounded, but she nodded. She stepped carefully onto the ice, her child in her arms. The surface groaned under her weight, cracks spreading, her breath caught, but she kept moving step by step until she reached the other side. The human followed, each step measured, his eyes never leaving the ice. Halfway across, the surface gave way beneath his foot. Water roared, freezing and black. He slipped, but at the last moment he threw his weight forward, dragging himself onto solid ground. The mother gasped, rushing to help him, her child crying, but the man only gritted his teeth, pulling himself up. "I'm fine," he said, though his lips were pale, his coat soaked. Behind them, the hunters reached the river. One stepped onto the ice, then another, but they moved too fast, too heavy. The surface cracked. A scream tore through the night as one fell into the freezing. Water dragged under, the others pulled back, shouting in anger. The human forced them onward. "We bought time, but not enough. Keep moving." The mountain path grew steeper, jagged rocks cutting into their hands, snow falling in sheets. The child whimpered, "Mama, I'm tired." The mother kissed their forehead, whispering, "Just a little more, little one. Just a little more." They reached a ridge. The human stopped, pointing ahead. "There, see the light. Far away, faint but real, a glow in the darkness, the sign of an outpost. Human-made, safe from the storm." The mother's heart leapt with hope, but fear returned quickly. "Can we reach it before they catch us?" The man's voice was grim. "We'll try." As they began the final descent, the hunters' voices rose behind them, louder, closer, torches glowing like a chain of fire across the mountain. They had not given up. They never would. Snow gave way beneath the child's foot. They slipped, screaming. The mother cried out, reaching, but the human lunged faster. catching the child's small body before they could fall into the abyss. He pulled them against his chest, holding them tight. "I've got you," he whispered, his voice breaking. The mother fell to her knees, sobbing in relief. The child clung to the man's neck, whispering, "Don't let go, please don't let go." He held them firmly, his own wounds screaming, his strength failing, but his will unbroken. "I won't," he said. The glow of the outpost grew brighter. As they stumbled onward, each step a battle, each breath heavy. Behind them, the hunters shouted, their rage filling the night. Finally, they reached a narrow gorge, the path to safety just beyond, but the hunters were too close. Their torches spilling light onto the snow, their weapons gleaming. The human turned, his knife ready again, his face pale but fierce. "Go," he told the mother. "Take the child, get to the outpost, I'll hold them here." Her eyes widened, tears falling. "No, I won't leave you." He shook his head, his voice sharp. "If they take you, it's over. If you reach the light, you—" "Live?" The child clutched both of them, sobbing. "Don't leave, please." The storm howled louder, the hunters' torches closing in, the gorge waiting ahead, safety so near, death so close. The mother's heart broke, caught between fear and trust, between survival and sacrifice, and the mountain night held its breath. The mountain wind screamed through the gorge, carrying with it the shouts of hunters, their torches burning like angry stars in the dark. The alien mother clutched her child, tight, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The human stood before them, knife in hand, his body weak from wounds, but his eyes burning with fire. "Go," he growled again, his voice raw but strong. "Take the child, run to the light." The mother shook her head, her eyes wet, her voice trembling. "I will not leave you." The hunters moved closer, their voices louder, their boots crunching on snow, their blades shining. The human looked at her, his face pale, his breath heavy, but his will unbroken. "If you stay, we all die," he said. "If you run, maybe your child lives." The child cried, clutching his arm, whispering, "Don't leave, please don't leave." For a heartbeat, time froze. The mother looked at the man, saw his blood dripping into the snow, saw his scars, his broken coat, his strength holding on only by sheer will. He had no reason to help them, no reason to bleed for them. Yet he did, again and again, her. Tears fell, her voice rose above the storm. "Then we fight together." The man's eyes widened, then softened, he gave a faint smile. "So be it." The hunters reached the edge of the gorge, shouting, their leader's voice sharp and cruel. "The woman and child are ours, kill the man." The human stepped forward, blocking the path. The mother stood beside him, her claws bared, her child behind them. The storm roared as if the mountain itself watched the stand. The first hunter lunged, his blade flashing. The human met him head-on, steel against steel, sparks flying. The mother tore into another with her claws, her scream fierce. Together, they fought as one. The cave had taught them to survive, but now the open mountain gave them space to fight back. The hunters pressed hard, but the path was narrow. Only a few could attack at once. The human's knife cut deep, his body moving. With fury, each strike a promise, each wound ignored. The mother's claws raked across armor, her strength fueled by love, by fear for her child. The child crouched behind, their small hands over their ears, but their eyes wide, watching as the two people they loved most in the world stood against death itself. One hunter broke through, rushing for the child. The mother saw and screamed, leaping between them. She clawed his throat, blood spraying across the snow. The human slammed another into the rock wall, his blade ending the fight, but the hunters kept coming more and more. The leader himself stepped forward now, taller, stronger, his armor thick, his weapon a heavy axe. He roared and charged, the ground trembling under his steps. The human braced, blocking the blow. The force nearly broke his arm. The axe slammed down again, sparks flying. The man's knees buckled, blood dripping. The mother lunged, striking the leader's side, but his armor held. He backhanded her with brutal force, sending her crashing into the snow. The child screamed, "Mama!" crawling toward her, but the mother pushed them back weakly. "Stay behind," she whispered. The leader raised his axe again. The human caught the handle with both hands, his body shaking, his teeth gritted. his wounds pouring blood. Not one step, he growled. The leader snarled, pressing harder, but suddenly the mountain itself shifted. A rumble deep below. The frozen ground cracked. Snow slid from the cliffs above, an avalanche born from their battle. The hunters' eyes widened in terror. They turned to flee. Their torches falling, the leader stumbled, trapped under the force of the human's push. The man shoved with the last of his strength, sending the leader back toward the collapsing slope. Snow roared down, swallowing hunters and torches alike, their screams fading into the night. Silence followed. Only the storm remained. The man collapsed to his knees, his body trembling, his knife slipping from his hand. The mother crawled to him, clutching his shoulders, tears falling. "Stay with me. Please stay." He looked at her, his breath shallow but a faint smile on his lips. "Told you, not ready to dig another grave." The child threw their arms around him, sobbing. "Don't leave us, you're family now." The man froze at the word, his eyes softening. Then he pulled the child close, whispering, "Family," through the storm. The glow of the outpost lights grew brighter. Voices calling from afar, human settlers with lanterns drawn by the avalanche's roar. They found the three huddled together in the snow. The settlers carried them inside, wrapped them in blankets, tended wounds, gave warm food and water. The mother held her child safe at last. The human sat nearby, his body weak but alive. Their eyes met, and in that moment, no words were needed. The hunters were gone, buried by the mountain they thought they owned. But something stronger had survived, not just blood and stone, not just fire and fear, but a bond. The child climbed onto the human's lap, pressing their small head against his chest, whispering softly, "You're my father now." Tears filled the mother's eyes. She took the man's hand, her voice steady. "And you are not alone anymore." The human's chest rose with a shaky breath, his scars still raw, his wounds still deep, but for the first time in years he felt whole. He looked at them both, his voice firm though soft. "Then we lived together." Outside the storm faded. The stars broke through the clouds. The mountains stood silent, witness to a new family forged in fire and blood and trust. And from that night forward, the alien mother, her child, and the human who saved them were no longer strangers. They were bound. Survivors made into something greater. A family that even death could not break.